All right. Hello, welcome everyone. Okay. Thank you for your patience. I was having an issue trying to log in today. All right. There we go. We are good to go. Let's see. Recording. All good. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Can't believe we're in April already. Let me see here. All right. So in today's class, we're going to be talking about soil amendments. I did want to show you just a couple fun things that's from over the last week. One of which is we have a 3D printer, and Brian started kind of playing around with it. And look at the pot that he printed. So this is with our 3D printer. And so it looks like a little house and it has drainage holes. And when you water the plant, the excess water um, goes into this little pot. Um, oh, no, no, Sue. Sue said it was an April Fool's joke. No, so sorry. It kept telling me I had the wrong password, so I don't know what was going on. I had to go into my one password copy. I have no idea what was going on. Sorry about that. Um, but yeah, so this is something we're gonna play around more with and design a couple really cool pots that Brian and I will come up with personally. So this is kind of one of those stock projects that you can download and check out for free. Um, and super, super cool. So yeah, it gets me excited. The only issue I personally have with this pot is that only the drainage holes are only on this side. So I would like them on this side. So if we do decide design something together, yes, there will be there will be more drainage holes. But I think this came out absolutely beautifully. I mean, it's hard. My plan is probably to put something small in here, but actually in the pot itself, um, because I'm just a little nervous that the drainage holes are only on one side. But still super cool. Yeah, excited to play around with that more. Then, um, so, oh, then here in a Dollar Tree by the house, which I love to go to because they always have the mini terracottas, and they have like a 3 pack for $1, which I love because I use a lot of mini mini terracottas around the house. Um, and they actually started selling this. So this is contact paper. So it's peel and stick, um, but with some beautiful, beautiful plants. So I am I am hoping to play around with this. And if any of you have a Dollar Tree in your area, they had some floral ones too, but I got really excited because, of course, the Monstera uh, and the what looks to be like Epiprenum. So check out a one by you. Um, Someone is asking about scale. Okay, so scale, thankfully, it can be removed manually. So that means with your hands. So what I would do is separate, if you notice that your plant has scale, immediately separate it from your other plants, and then go ahead and with a paper towel, you can use a wet paper towel, kind of rub the stems, rub the leaves themselves, make sure the back of the leaf as well, and just kind of see what that first pass looks like. You might have to use multiple pieces of paper towel, depending on how bad the infestation is. Then what you could do, so the scale, they're covered by kind of like a wax coating, which works like a turtle shell, you can say. So they're under it and they're protected. So kind of spraying pesticides and things like that doesn't technically work very well. But if you have a needle with some rubbing alcohol as a spray, what you can do is start to kind of work them, kind of remove the suction cup, because they're kind of like a suction cup. You can kind of remove them with a needle, and then spray alcohol as you're doing so, and the alcohol will kill the scale insect once it's removed and kind of air like exposed to the air, because you're going to be spraying it and it won't be protected anymore, because they'll basically secrete this wax coating and suction themselves to a certain area, and they'll just tap into your plant and just suck out its juices basically. So yeah, so you can do it by like that. So I mean, it's going to be pretty difficult, or just manually, just kind of washing it under the sink. You can do like a drop of soapy water on your hands and kind of do it manually and get as much as you can off, and then kind of go back and remove any that might have remained. But you're gonna want to do like a clean, so kind of a clean, a treat. So this would count kind of like a treatment. You're gonna want to do that for a minimum of 6 weeks. 10 weeks tends to be the sweet spot. So once a week. So it suppresses it from kind of coming back full force. But that's really all you can do. I mean, there are plant systemics. So these are a type of pesticide that you spray onto the plant, and it gets absorbed by the plant, and then any pest that tries to eat it um, starts to die. It works the same way as like frontline with like ticks that you put on your dogs. And then if the ticks or fleas bite them after you've applied it, they get poisoned. It kind of works that way. Um, uh, but the problem is that it can burn your leaves, so I would do a test spot. Um, but yeah, so doing kind of like a rinse, manual removal, and then kind of going in with a needle. If you have specific leaves that, let's say, are the worst of the worst, they might just be worth cutting off. Cutting those leaves off so they're just gone, and you can kind of deal with a more manageable section of the infestation. But yeah, that's really all you can do. I mean, after your leaf, everything is clean. You can try putting diatomaceous earth. It's like a white powder. You can try putting it in the soil so that any that might have kind of fallen into the soil, um, they're gone, keeping it from going into other plants. You can also dust your leaves so take a diatomaceous earth with a paintbrush and dust your leaves, just kind of like it's like you're painting powder onto the leaves, just a very kind of thin coat. And it can kill any babies that might still be around. So baby scale are kind of translucent. So they're kind of difficult to spot. So you might miss them when you're kind of doing your initial thing. But that's why I recommend kind of touching the entire plant. Try to get into the nooks and crannies, up and down the stems. It's kind of like you're giving the plant a massage, but it's just when you're kind of washing it. And try to tilt it as well, so you're not getting any soap or anything in the soil. So it might be a two-person job. If not, I would say just try to kind of do it at a tilt, so that you're not, getting everything falling in there. But you kind of have to give it a shower essentially. And that might help. That really helps. Thankfully, like I said, scale is one of the easier things to manage if you get to it early and you're consistent with your treatment. Um, yeah, and it's something that it doesn't kill the plant right away, so you kind of have a little bit of time to work with it, so they can bounce back. So that's okay. Now, other mealy bugs, which are related to scale, similar, but they're not as difficult to get off. You can do the same thing manually, kind of wash them off, but you can spray alcohol directly onto them, and they shrivel up and turn black on contact. And then you can kind of go in with a Q-tip, and yeah. Sue asks, can you use a shaker? Like used for seasoning to sprinkle the diatomaceous earth. I wouldn't recommend a shaker, so it's very fine, like powder, like a flour. Sorry, and so it's not dense like salt. So it wouldn't. If you use like a regular shaker, it might like kind of puff and kind of like be like smoky. There is a thing that comes in the bag when you buy diatomaceous earth, and it's kind of like a squeezed down puffer. So basically, you put the powder in and you squeeze, and it kind of dusts things for you as well. And it comes automatically in there. So hopefully that helps. I quickly just want to show you two more things. Oh well, technically three more things. Um, but oh God, four more things. Sorry. So we were at a goth fest over the weekend. We had my cousin visiting. It was really, really nice. And I got a couple things. So there was someone selling these moss terrariums. And what got me really excited, especially was, and I don't think the camera is gonna pick it up here. But down here, let me see, maybe if there we go. Maybe this will be a little bit better. Here is a liverwort. So there's some just really kind of simple plants. Super excited. They're miniature. So I was just, yeah, I was geeking out, and the person was also geeking out. And they actually raise a bunch of orchids as well. So it was really neat. It was really neat. They were the only plant person that I found in the entire festival. So it was really cool to connect and check these out. But I'm excited to. I've always wanted a moss terrarium, so we'll we'll be playing around with this. And then so I had shown everyone that I had bought this dome that was shaped like an egg at Target. And that I was trying to think of a plant to put in it, but that I was going to have to kind of varnish the base of it so that any humidity wouldn't affect, because it's made out of wood. But then um, at this festival, there was somebody that was selling taxidermy, and I found something that I think it fits perfectly into the egg, but I do have to create a base of some sort. So hold on. He's not going to stand up because I still have to fix the base, but this is the top. So it looks like an egg. And again, mind you, the original plan was to use it for a plant, but now I'm going to use it for this duckling. So this is a taxidermy duckling, and Brian and I have named him Darwin. Um, and he's absolutely adorable. And yeah, we're gonna set this up. I was thinking about putting some. I have dried specimens of moss and lichen, so doing kind of little nature scene. And then yeah, and then sealing him in an egg, this glass egg. So I'll show you how that turns out. I think he's absolutely adorable. So I was really excited. What do the kitties think of him? They did check him out. They were like, "What is that?" Because I put it on my desk. And yes, they indeed were a very inquisitive, and I had to sit down with them and let them sniff him, because they were like, "What is that?" They were just kind of staring like this at him. Um, so that was entertaining. And then the last thing I wanted to show you is so on our way back home yesterday, we stopped at NYC Succulents. So, if you were here at a previous class, I had mentioned that Planted by Christie's, which was a very popular rare plant shop here in the area in Long Island City. They went out of business, unfortunately. They consolidated with their sister store called Nellie's Flowers, which is all the way in Brooklyn. So it's really hard for us to get there. This one was close and convenient to get to, and they had such a great selection. So that definitely hit us hard, because we like a lot of rare species. So this accessibility kind of spoiled us, because we were used to buying them, having to order them. So being able to just walk into a local store that was 10 minutes away from us, definitely spoiled us. But NYC Succulents has risen to the occasion, and is now carrying really rare species. And so, while we were in Costa Rica, our tortum, our medium silver, and our obliquas did not fare very well. We were gone for a month, and we thought, that they'd be okay with care, but they're very, very sensitive. So without us here, it was definitely very, very difficult for them. So uh, I wanted to replace them, and this store had them at an amazing, 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 amazing pricing in comparison. So I ended up having to grab them because he had them available. So this is the Amedrium Silver. So this is a new leaf that is coming out. It's hard to see if the camera will pick it up. It kind of has that blue sheen that a Cebu blue has. Really, really beautiful plant. Um, I've seen it also called like the mini monstera and things like that, like a tetrasperma. Um, but this is a whole other type of plant. They do get fenestrations. They do kind of look like compact monstera leaves. When they get to a certain point, they do get even like the holes. So it's very, very cool. But this one does have some fenestrations in here. This new leaf has some fenestrations. This leaf too just had like a hole. um, but yeah, so excited to kind of build upon my collection again with these guys. Um, the one that I had, the Amedrium I had, only had 2 leaves. It was a very, very young specimen. So so excited to have this one that's a little bit further along. So it might fare a little bit better. And we're not going away for a month long anytime soon. So we could get it nice and established. Um, yeah, before we were to go away again. Then this obliqua. So this is the Monstera obliqua. So it's so neat to see these in stores. Um, Not too long ago, these were incredibly rare. These were going for well over $1,000. I saw several um, auctions on eBay, like $2,000 for a smidge of what this would be. It would probably be like this section alone for $2,000. Um, there was a oh my God, I think it's called Leafing Around, but it's a great YouTube channel, and they were doing um, an interview of this rare plant collector, and she had a variegated obliqua Peru, and uh, it was 1 leaf, and she had it in a dome, like a case. Um, and she paid, I think she said she paid 13 or 1400 for an unrooted cutting. I could never I could never do that. So this is rooted, it's in substrate. It has new leaves coming out. Um, yeah, so it has some yellowing on here because they were delivered fairly recently, but that's perfectly fine. Yeah, so I'm just excited. Just the ones that I had before, we had ordered from Aquagenera, but Aquagenera was selling them, I think, for um like 100 or yeah for and this person was 60 60 I think it was 60. um yeah, so I was like, I'm gonna grab this one now before he runs out. But these are so beautiful, and yeah, excited to set this guy up. And then the last one is the tortum. So when I bought the tortum, it was $40, and it was 1 leaf with a leaf starting to come out. So it was just like like a little stick, right? That it was forming into a leaf. This one I paid the exact same price, $40 for 10 leaves. So it looks wacky. So this is whoop, a philodendron. Um, the tortum, it has these kind of finger-like leaves, kind of looks like a palm or something like that. And I love when the new leaves come out. So this is the 10th leaf. It looks like a noodle. It looks so weird when it's starting to come out. Um, but this is an absolutely cool plant. I always wanted one. I had one, gosh, for almost a year, and it was doing great. Then we got hit by thrips over the summer. It was one of the plants that was affected, but it looked like it was coming back. And it had two leaves before we left for Costa Rica. We came back, it was not doing very well. Um, and I tried. I even took a big chunk of it and I put it into a propagation bin and nothing. So I was like, all right, well, chalk that one up to a loss. But I was so happy to see this person's actually carrying them. So I got an even better plant. Super excited to kind of start over with a new on a new clean slate with these guys because these were like plants we had on our wish list that we bought and we were really excited to have. And so we really wanted to have them again because we had the care down. I think just the thrips caught us really unaware and really messed with a lot of our aeroids. So our succulents were perfectly fine, but a lot of our aeroids got hit really hard. We lost about a dozen plants. So, I mean, in comparison, we have, a lot. We have a lot of plants. So, but a lot of the plants we lost were ones that were really hard to find. And so, yeah, so excited to have that. And he's actually getting a Spirit to Sancti in. So I'm excited to. I've only seen one once ever in person, and it was a fairly small one. Um, so I am excited to see it in person. I don't know. I think he wants like 300 for it. So that's not an option at the moment. But that in comparison to it was being sold for about $2,000 not too long ago, as well. So it's cool to see a lot of these rare plants that are now being propagated much more readily, and so prices can go down. So they're much more attainable now. And I started to see now that there are also a lot of new plants that Brian and I have never heard of. So I think they're trying to build up excitement for like the next round of of rare species. So yeah, so just wanted to kind of show you that little haul. Um, the event that we went to over the weekend was a lot of fun. Totally did not expect to see plants there. I didn't expect to see taxidermy stuff. Oh, I also ended up buying these earrings, and so they're not real teeth. They are molded after real human teeth with resin. I thought they were adorable. They're just human teeth shaped, but they're not real human teeth. But I thought with like some silver, and I thought that was super, super cute. So Brian and I we collect fossils. We collect things like taxidermy and all different types of bones and things. So this was definitely really fun, really fun for us as well. But yeah, so let me dig into the material. So yeah, someone was saying that uh, that the leaf design would be good on a bathroom wall. Absolutely, and they do um, fit together. So when you buy them, you can actually turn the sections, and they all fit perfectly together. So you can use it as wallpaper. So super, super cool. I only grabbed two pieces because I was like, I want to experiment with this. Maybe, something small that I can decorate like that because I really, really liked the design. So I'll play with that. Um, Jamie Murphy is asking, will the moss outgrow the terrarium? So it possibly could. I need to identify all of the species in there. So she raises 16 species. And She mentioned one of the species and I cannot recall. So I'm going to actually be reaching out to her to see if she can tell me exactly what species she used. Because then I get a better idea. So some moss will stay pretty minute. They will grow past a certain point. Other mosses can get a little bit longer. So if they do, I mean, I could trim them back. But it's such a cool little thing. Um, so I'm hoping I won't have to cut too much, and I'm hoping that the liverworts will be happy. She said that she does not personally grow liverworts, but she had brought in some types of soil to grow the moss in, and the liverworts just appeared. So they were just volunteer plants. Um, and she started putting them into her terrariums, and so I got really excited because I've always loved liverworts. They're this like really old type of plant. They don't even have a root system. They have to kind of be in constant moisture. um, and just the shape, it just looks so odd. I love liverworts. If this is your first class, I love odd plants. So anything that looks like a mutant or weird, or you wouldn't even know it's a plant, that's what really attracts me. Even something like I was just showing my cousin that this is one of my favorite plants that I have. It's a type of euphorbia, and the common name is the dead stick plant. So when I started with this was only about like this big, and all of this growth has happened in the last couple years. Pretty slow growing, um, but yes, this like flat gray green stick with some purple dots. It's hard to see. It kind of looks just gray on the camera, but it's cool. I don't know. I like it. I like weird plants. So a lot of the plants behind me are definitely weird. Like we have a little pine cone cactus here. Um, so yeah, the odd things definitely um are my wheelhouse. Um, oh no, Sue said if I spent that much on a plant, my kids would have me committed. Yeah, no, it's and mind you, these are a lot less. And like this, to just show you that seeing a plant like that for 40 or $60, um, that is a steal in comparison to what they used to be priced at, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. So just to show you how far the pricing has dropped. Like during the height of COVID, those were still going crazy high. You could easily, I mean, maybe the lowest you'd get an oblique was for like $800-900. That would be a steal at that time. So it's definitely dropped. Um, So Terry says the plant identifier I used in an aged creeping monstera I bought was Monstera obliqua. I only spent $25. Could it be? Definitely send me a picture, Terry. So, well, obliqua was only recently now starting to be done, I think, with like tissue cultures, and now successfully with cuttings. So it wasn't a plant that you would end up kind of accidentally finding in like regular plant stores. If you did buy it from a collector, though, it is very possible that they could have messed up and given you a Monstera obliqua if they did grow them. These things do happen. So sometimes there are mistakes. The plant grower might mislabel something, or they're not aware, that they have a couple cuttings and another cutting cut. They forget that they threw another cutting in that propagation box. They use those cuttings to root up a plant, and then yeah, they did not realize that they threw something in there. Monstera obliqua, it's classified very much so because of its wavy nature, and they have very large holes. There's more holes than there is leaf. Um, so I mean, hey, if you did, that's awesome. That is awesome. Um, but that definitely. Um, yes, Joyce, definitely. In one moment. Um, sent where did you find that? Oh, the paper with the leaves on Dollar Tree, in Dollar Tree. Yeah. So yeah. And Joyce, yes, let me see your cactus, and then I'll show you some soil amendments. Um, yeah.
Okay,
Let
so
me.
this is my this is my cactus.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that looks like you might be a mammillaria.
It's got little babies.
Oh,
Is it? Yeah, I'm not. Got it at my grocery store. It's horrible. They got like all these little cactuses. So every time I'm gonna go in there, because I just adore cactuses. I had an old man cactus and it was 3 feet tall, and then my cats knocked it over.
oh no.
Yeah, but yeah, I had that for years. It was just a little thing when I got it. So
They're so
yeah,
neat. I love old man cacti. That one does
yeah,
look like it might be a mammillaria.
mammillaria. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm hope it looks okay, eh?
Oh yeah. No, no, it looks great. And you have the babies growing at the base.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's awesome. Just make sure that it's completely dry before you water it again. So I water my cacti usually when it's the summer, um, about every 3 weeks or so. And then when it's winter though, at like the earliest once a month, sometimes more like 5 or 6 weeks, depending on how cold it might be. But yeah, I mean 3 weeks for like small ones. 3 weeks should be pretty good. I like to bottom water them. And
That's what I did
then
this one. I
okay,
waited like
great.
I waited 4 days before I put it in a dark corner the first day I got it, and then slowly moved it to the
Oh, that's perfect.
and I got some little clay pots. Is Should I wait to transplant it?
Yeah, I mean if it's new, I would wait at least 2 weeks or so before transplanting it. If you've already had it for 2 weeks, that's fine. Just make sure it's completely dry
Okay, so
when you do yeah, transplant them. And then don't water them immediately after transplanting. So
okay,
once you repot it, just give it a couple days before watering if it needed to be watered. Um, yeah, because and roots can start to break, and with succulents, if you water them like right after that, it can cause rot. So you gotta kind of give it a couple days, like a week or so, to kind of settle in before you water them.
I was wondering if my jade, where we are we? My jade, my jade needs
Ah!
transplanting. Can you see? I don't know.
Oh, here we go at the base. Oh, here we go.
Have I got
I
it right?
mean, yeah, yeah, there we go. I can see a bunch of the babies around the mother at the
Yeah, I
base
just left
there.
those there.
No, that's great. That's great. My mom has one that flowers all the time, and she just anytime a piece falls, she just throws it in the soil, and it's just like a little forest around like the main trunk. It looks super cool.
Yeah, I've
Well,
had
with
that
mhm.
about 10 years or more. Actually, probably.
Whoa.
And it's never flowered for me.
Oh
So
no.
no, that's so sad. So it doesn't need transplanting, eh? Just let it be.
I would let it be for now. I mean, they it takes years for them to outgrow a pot. So,
Okay.
so I would say it's still perfectly fine. If you start to see that the soil level is dropping, if you can see the roots above the soil, um,
Okay.
or you can see roots trying to escape at the bottom, anything like that, then that's definitely a visible sign that you have to repot, but you're probably still pretty good for now.
Yeah, because I can't. It's a two-person job because otherwise you would
Yes.
break the
Oh,
whole thing.
absolutely.
Okay. I'll let you go, and thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. That's a beautiful jade. Oh no, I think you muted. Hold on. There we go.
I
Oh, there
started
you go.
clipping it because it looked really ugly, and I was gonna throw it
Oh,
out. And I thought, well, I'm gonna throw it out. I just gonna go wild. And so it's filled out really nice on this side. So this side, it's getting too heavy for the thing. The well, you know, talking. So
yes, yes.
I'm gonna try to get it more this way so it doesn't fall over on me.
Yes. Are you rotating it?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
great. Perfect. Yeah. So
yeah.
I would just say keep rotating it, and if you want, kind of shape it and then keep it kind of how you want it, and just rotate
How
it
that fills out.
a quarter turn. Yeah, exactly. Until that starts to fill out a little bit. Kind of do some topiary,
Yeah,
some shaping.
I need to cut the top a little bit because it's getting all this new stuff. And it's like, okay, you can't do that. Oh, okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. That was such a pretty jade, seriously. I want to get a jade like that big. I have a lot of jades around the house, but they're all really small, and I think like the biggest one I have is like about that tall. But when I see like these big tree-like jades, I'm like, oh, yes, yes. I want to get. I'm like, grow, grow. Um, all right. So yes, I wanted to show you a couple soil amendments. So we were getting a lot of questions about these different types of amendments. Like someone had asked about vermiculite. Someone had asked about like horticultural charcoal. What is it? Why would I want to use it? Things like that. So I figured it would be a good chance to kind of run you through some of my favorite soil amendments, and just to tell you a little bit more about them, about what they do, and yeah, and kind of start them out like that. Um, Now with things such as perlite, I think I'm going to start with perlite first, because this is probably the most recognizable. So, perlite, it's that white kind of styrofoam ball looking thing that you might see in your soil. Um, it's very lightweight. Uh, it's definitely porous. You might find them at different sizes. Um, but yeah, they have like this kind of they're not super soft, but you can crush them. You can absolutely, like, here we go. You could absolutely crush it. So it's not a solid rock, right? It's something. So a lot of people think it's styrofoam, but it's definitely not styrofoam, and it's harder than styrofoam. Um, but you can definitely, it's not unbreakable. So definitely full of pores. And you'll see this kind of in mixes. Now, I have seen in certain soil mixes that are meant for succulents, while they will have some perlite, they usually don't have enough. There's sometimes a lot of soil ratio, like the soil ratio is much higher than the perlite. And with if you want it just to be a good, well draining mix, you're kind of looking almost like half half, if not a little bit more, in terms of perlite. This is like for cacti, for plants that need a lot of drainage. So the ratio of perlite definitely has to be a lot higher in comparison to what I usually end up seeing. So very lightweight. It can retain a little bit of moisture, but nowhere near something like vermiculite. So I don't have any vermiculite. I wasn't able to get my hands on any. It's been a while since I've had vermiculite because I stopped using it. But it kind of looks similar, but it's kind of flattened little pieces, and that holds a lot of moisture, and that is something you would use more so. For kind of like seedlings, maybe even in some. Some folks use them when they're propagating things like what are they called? African violets. I've seen propagated with vermiculite. I've seen other types of just kind of little cuttings that are propagated kind of in Ziploc bags. I've seen that done with vermiculite. But the issue with vermiculite is it can hold too much moisture, and this can promote rot, can promote kind of like fungal growth. So if you are using it with your seedlings, just kind of keep an eye out and make sure you're not being kind of heavy-handed, because yeah, the vermiculite can end up going in the wrong direction. Now with perlite though, the I guess the main issues is that it's not a renewable resource. And so while we do have a really large amount currently available, there's like mining operations to get it. It's really close to the surface as well. It's not something that costs a lot of money or energy to have mined. So that's why you can buy it pretty inexpensively. Because it's also used in other things other than house plants. It's pretty much in high demand. So it's used like for decontamination, for filtering. It's used even in construction. But it's not a renewable resource. So once we kind of, mine those current deposits, it'll be very difficult to get your hands on it again. So I find that there are just other, I guess, cheaper and maybe a little bit easier to work with, and other options as well. But perlite is one of those popular options. Um, and one good thing about perlite is it is reusable. So technically, it's not going to, unless you're obviously like how you're putting it under a significant amount of force to break it. It pretty much retains its shape. Um, you'll probably lose it from your pot if you have pretty big drainage holes, more so when you're watering the plant, it might escape through the drainage holes, or sometimes when you water a plant from the top, if you overfill it and the soil is really dry, it can cause the perlite to float and kind of fall out the edges of the pot. That can happen. But otherwise, I mean, it is reusable. So if you ever reuse any soils, just make sure that they're being baked. You can bake it in the oven to kind of decontaminate it. Because if one plant did die of some type of like infection or infestation, you definitely don't want to reuse that soil. If you absolutely have to, just make sure it's being decontaminated properly. I think you can put it in the oven up to like 180 degrees, and and then be able to use that soil, because if you put it too high, it can actually burn the soil and then it loses its nutritive value. But I think like 180 is the usual amount. But yeah, so perlite. I like to use perlite for my succulents, for my cacti. I use a lot of it for our aroids as well. So you can even see like with this obliqua here, it also has perlite in its mix. So these little white dots that you're seeing here, that's all perlite. So there's also some like cocoa coir. There appears to be some leca in here as well. Here we go. Some leca. These are little clay balls. Is some orchid bark, and it appears like there's just a little bit of succulent mix in here. So this is the mix that the shop makes. He has a pretty good mix. So the plants that I've gotten from him, they're pretty good. Now, this one that I did buy from him as well. So this was just one that he received recently. He got in recently. So this isn't one he grew himself. but he hasn't changed its mix yet, right? So this is a mix that it arrived from the nursery with. And you can actually see how brown it is. It's like a dark abyss. So you can see just how dark it is. There's no perlite in here. This is pretty much all like peat and cocoa coir. And it looks like they threw a couple, these are slow release fertilizer balls. So there are these little green balls here that they threw in here. You can also see it's kind of lifted a little bit. So it's in a plug. So let me see if I can use my phone to, um, here we go. There we go. So you can kind of see that it's lifted, it's in a plug. So sometimes these plants, and it's not just with aroids, other species too, they're grown in this little kind of baggie, a little mesh baggie. And it's very easy for the nursery to then upgrade them in pots, and sometimes they're grown hydroponically. So it's just easier, right? Kind of keeps them in a little stack. And so it looks like this was grown this way, but it they did remove the sack, and so it's just I can see roots, but it did kind of retain that shape, and it wasn't really put into the pot um, deeply. So it kind of sticks out like that. It's something we can work with. It's not a worry. Um, but yeah, that can happen. Um, and so there's like a little bit of mesh on the back part. So it looks like they started to kind of remove it, or it could have been just naturally deteriorated as well. Uh, so that can happen. But as you can see, there's no perlite. Now, this is a very young plant, and so sometimes when plants are very young, they're going to need much more moisture. This is not every single plant, but most house plants. So when they're smaller, they need a little bit more moisture. So they're okay with this type of mix. But once they start to establish themselves and get a little bit larger, they need more drainage. They start to kind of lose that need for so much moisture that now this type of moisture it would become too much. Um, so that can happen. So be wary of that. Let me turn off my flashlight here. Um, then I wanted to show you, what am I going to show you? Oh, here we go. So I have LECA. So for those of you who might not be aware of LECA, so LECA is lightweight expandable clay aggregate. There you go. So this is LECA. Um, And so here, let me not spill all of it all over my computer, but here you can see I get it's kind of a mixed bag of different sizes. So there are some itty bitty pieces, there are some big pieces, but you can't actually buy it specifically at certain sizes. So you can order small and it'll be like super small, or you can order them large. And they're not always circular. They can be kind of odd shaped. So like you can get them as small as this. This is again mixed, so I got them all. Or you can get them kind of irregular shape. So they're not a perfect ball. They can be like these giant clumps. So you can totally get them like that. And what it is basically it's this clay product that is mined, this clay that's mined and put into basically in heat. And it's kind of they kind of pop like popcorn. So they fill up with the heat, causes them to expand, and they are very porous. So water can kind of travel through this, and it's very similar to the same material we have in our terracotta pots. These kind of orange pots you see all the time. And what it does is it wicks water away. So it kind of takes in water, but then as the soil around it dries, it kind of starts releasing that water. So if there's moisture around it, it takes it in, and as the surrounding area dries, it kind of releases it. Um, and so this is really great when you're trying to work with a plant that likes to kind of start to gradually get dry, doesn't like wet feet. And so wet feet usually denotes a plant that really loves to have its roots kind of wet all the time. So it likes that extra moisture. Not all plants like that. So a plant that does like that, a great example is like a peace lily. So peace lilies really like the moisture. I mean, depending on how you have it, I mean, they can grow completely in water and be very happy. But if you're growing it in like a soil mix, you don't want it to be muddy because if it's constantly wet all the time, it will start to rot. Because if a plant is, the roots need oxygen, and if it's a constantly in like this submerged state of like mud, of like a black soil sludge, those roots can't get oxygen, and being deprived of oxygen, they start to die off. Then there are microorganisms in your soil. So there's fungi, there's bacteria, and once they see that there's dead tissue, that's food time, right? So they'll just be doing their job and breaking down that section of the root system that's died off. But then what happens is that um, fungi, for instance, it is what it eats, and it can permeate its food source. So it can actually kind of go in and affect the healthy tissue. So that can absolutely happen. Now with leca, you can also just use leca as your substrate. So there are plenty of plants that we even have here at home that are just in leca. They don't have any other substrate. So this is commonly used in hydroponics. So in plants that are being grown in water, and this is all that's in there. Or you can use it and add it to your mix. So I like to add it to my succulent mixes. I like to use it with my aroid mixes, um, with like orchid mixes. This is a great substrate for orchids as well, because it'll just dry out. It won't let them sit in water for long periods of time. So this is a pretty cool kind of amendment to work with. And it's reusable because you can definitely and I feel like it's a lot easier to reuse than something like perlite because this you can just boil it in water. You can wash it with some like hydrogen peroxide if you wanted, and then boil it, just for good measure. So you can do that, but it's larger, so I feel like it's easier if you wanted to reuse it in comparison to something like perlite. And I feel that it's something that is already used in the pet industry. So in terrariums, in aquariums, um, it is already used. So you can find this in pet stores. It's not something that is just used for gardening. I've also seen it now it's being used fairly commonly in things I have seen shower heads that have leca, and it's used for filtration. So you can find it in things like that. And it technically it's a lot more renewable in regards to how it's removed from the earth than perlite. So it just takes a little bit longer for it to develop. And yeah, it's not as damaging to the environment as perlite mining is. So if you had to pick one or the other, lithium might be the better option there. Um, so you can potentially use that. And then let me see here. Which this? Oh, so this is orchid bark. And so again, I don't want to spill it on my computer here, but this is orchid bark. So this is also just like a mixed bag. There's just pieces of all sizes here. And it's really kind of wood chips. So usually these are kind of the remains of um, uh, conifer tree bark, so like pines and things, junipers, things like that, fir trees. Um, and you can see that there has been some breakdown. So all the dust that's at the bottom of the bag just is in there too. So I like to transfer these once the bags are kind of low. I I just put them into this. I have a little rolling cart with all of these on it. Um, and it just makes it easier for me to go from room to room if I have to do any repotting or anything like that. Um, but I mean, it's great for drainage. So I do use that. I use a lot of orchid bark, one with orchids, and also with epiphytic plants as well. So some of my epiphytic cacti, so things like the Easter cactus, the Thanksgiving cactus, the orchid cactus, rickrack cactus. So these epiphytic cacti that grow in trees usually, so they're not really living just in soil. Um, they need a very airy type of substrate, and orchid bark works wonderfully. It's also really good for drainage. It adds a little bit of more drainage while still retaining a little bit of moisture. Not as much as something like sphagnum moss or peat moss, um, but it does hold much more moisture than, let's say, the leca and the perlite does. So it's much more for something like yeah, like an epiphytic cacti, which doesn't mind a little bit more moisture in comparison to a desert cacti. So the problem, I would not use this, let's say, with a desert species, with a desert cacti, because it'll retain a little more moisture than that cacti is going to really like. And it also starts to break down. And while you think, well, that's great, it's good, it feeds, the plant, sure, it does do that, but a lot of desert dwelling species, they don't really like a lot of nitrogen. They don't like a lot of fertilizer. It can actually damage them. So they don't really want a bunch of things in their soil that breaks down. Um, and so I don't tend to use this with like my desert cacti, but I definitely do use it for a lot of my epiphytics, and with my aroids, so my philodendrons, my monsteras, the pothos, so the epiprenums, our scindapsus. So definitely use orchid bark with it. This can also slightly lower your pH, just a teensy bit. It can make because it's from conifers. Um, so I would say to just keep that in mind, because some plants don't really like acidic soil. I mean, it's not going to make it super acidic, but it does add a little bit of more acidity to the soil. And if your plant prefers like an alkaline type of mix, might not appreciate it as much. But this is something also you can find in pet stores and in plant stores. So usually orchid bark is used as kind of like a wood mulch in some terrariums and some reptile cages. So it is something that's a little bit easier to get your hand off to, uh, because it's something that the lumber and the pine is already being harvested, and so these are kind of like the sawdust, right? It's like the remnants. It's a byproduct. So the trees are not just being chopped down and used to make this. So this is just a byproduct that then is repurposed, right? It's like, what can we do with this? Oh, we can actually use it. So, so that is helpful. It's also biodegradable, so it's gonna break down. The perlite, I mean, it gets crushed, but it doesn't necessarily break down. And the leca the same. The leca will probably last, well, a lot longer than the perlite because it can deal with pressure without breaking. But over time, it's going to take a really long time. Over time, it will break down. Um, but yeah, nowhere as quickly as the perlite. Um, And I mean, you can use alternatively cocoa husk chips as well. So if you want, um, that's also a byproduct of cocoa, like the coconut husk, um, using like when they're using things like palm oil or uh, different types of things, heart of the palms, palm hearts, things like that that they're using in plantations. The cocoa coir and cocoa husk usually, and also with coconuts, of course, uh, is a byproduct there. So, I mean, you can use that. It's probably a little cheaper, if you were to find it. But yeah, if you wanted to use that. But I like to use this because this is what I can find readily available in my stores. So yeah. Let's see, another thing I wanted to show you was, oh, so sphagnum moss. The sphagnum moss is well, is not a renewable resource. This is amongst the last of the sphagnum moss that I have here. I have this, and I have like two other containers of sphagnum moss. And I don't buy sphagnum moss anymore. So I haven't for several years. So this is basically what's left from a big bag that I had purchased. The sphagnum moss that are currently in my plants, a lot of that. So this is unused sphagnum moss. But the ones that I do have with my plants is kind of recycled. I use it again as much as I can until it's literally breaking apart, because it's not a renewable resource. So this is still the last batch of the untouched. Otherwise, if I need to remove it from like a propagation, I boil it similarly to leca. I spray it down with a little bit of hydrogen peroxide, and then I boil it, um, and let it dry, and then I can reuse it again for another prop box or anything like that. It does also break down in the long run. It will break down, um, but it's just something that I don't necessarily want to contribute to buying. So I'm not going to be purchasing. I'm not going to be purchasing any more than what I have here. I'll just keep making do, and eventually it's gonna rot and die, and then will rot and disappear, and then I won't have it anymore. But there's other alternatives. There's other alternatives. So what is it? Right? What is this kind of spongy thing here? And so it's a type of moss. So sphagnum moss is indeed a type of moss. But this is the top part of the moss. So peat and sphagnum are the same thing, but they're just different parts of the moss. So the sphagnum is the top part of the moss, and then the peat is the dark, like kind of like it looks like earth. Uh, that's really the bottom side of the moss, and it's just years of dead moss that has disintegrated and become this really fertile, rich kind of substrate. And it can hold up to 20% of its weight in water. It's very good at absorbing moisture, and it's good at holding, locking in moisture for very long periods of time. So this is why it tends to be used for young plants, for propagating plants, for plants kind of as a dressing on top, also mixed into substrates to really lock in that extra moisture. Um, and but again, and it's used for other things. It's used in other industries as well. But it's just, yeah. This is something that grows really slowly. It takes thousands of years for these peat bogs to develop, kind of like a marshland. Um, and the sphagnum is an integral part of that ecosystem. And in these different places, folks are showing up with bulldozers and just destroying it. And it's not renewable. And as much as some companies are touting that they are renewable, that they kind of set up like a little section that they farm, and then they don't touch that for a couple years and only farm another part so that that kind of replenishes itself. And sure, it does replenish, but nowhere as near as what they had already taken, right? It's going to take thousands of years for that ecosystem to get back to how it was, right? Um, and so it's not sustainable. It's not a renewable resource. Um, and I mean, this is affecting places in Canada, in Scotland, uh, Peru, New Zealand. I don't know a state, Michigan, in Michigan as well. There are peat bogs that are being mined. So it's a bummer, right? It's because you see this everywhere. I see it everywhere when I go to purchase plants. Um, it's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. So, but just so that you know that this is the sad truth behind the sphagnum moss, is that it's something that is readily available, unfortunately. Um, but it's really not, it can't replenish itself quick enough to meet the demand that there is in the world for it. And the wetlands, what they do is they actually drain the wetland. So it's like a marsh, like a swamp, and they drain it. And then the top layer dies of the moss, right? It's dried, and then this is what you end up with. Um, and then the peat is collected separately. So that's the bottom layer. So yeah. And a lot of, again, a lot of these mines are saying, well, we're using sustainable practices because we're letting it kind of replenish itself, but it's a much lower quality. And yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same. And then you end up just with like a barren wasteland. Um, so I mean, you can use so many other things instead of sphagnum. If you wanted to use like the cocoa coir, like the pith, it's like very stringy of the cocoa coir. That works really well. I mean, leca can be used when you're propagating as well. So you can totally do that, or use some type of bark, whether orchid bark or bark blends, right? There's also blends with cocoa coir and bark in it as well. So it's just, yeah, it's a sad, unfortunate truth with sphagnum. So I personally just don't want to buy any more of it. If you know, I can use other things. I can definitely use other things. Um, and then this was one that I've been fairly using more recently. This is also another byproduct, and it's crushed granite. Um, and it's used for poultry. So it's called poultry grit. So it's used more so for chickens to munch on, and then this helps them break down the feed. But it's very much I mean, they're all different sizes. Let me see if I can. There we go. It's hard. It's not porous. So it's not porous. But I've used it more so as kind of like a grit that I add to my mix. Um, so just to kind of give a little bit of extra drainage, but they're small enough that I'm not worried that they're going to block up my drainage holes or things like that. But I've been using it a lot with like my little succulents. My cacti. I have thrown a little bit in with my airways if I'm repotting them. Um, but I personally like that it's a very cheap option. I got 25 pounds for $10. And it is also a byproduct, so it's not being mined specifically for this purpose. It's just what's left over when granite is being collected. So, and then it's kind of further crushed in some cases, but yeah. So I've been using this a little bit more often. Um, and then let's see, what is this? These are worm castings. So this is something else that I like to use. It doesn't have a scent, so it doesn't smell weird. So I hope that doesn't keep people away. what I'm thinking when they hear about worm castings, because worm castings honestly is worm poop. It's just worm poop. Um, but they're like little granules. It's hard to maybe at this angle you can kind of see the granules. So it's not like a fluffy substrate. They're definitely little like there's some bigger pieces, there's smaller pieces, and this is a really great fertilizer. And so I love worm castings. Um, oh, someone's asking. Yes, all my containers are made out of glass. Yes, these are all glass. Um, yeah, these are all made out of glass. Uh, and so, yeah, with the worm castings, so I like to buy them if I can locally. So there are folks that locally have worms, and yeah, and they collect their worm castings and sell them off. Uh, it's a really nice slow release type of feeding for the plant. It's very gentle. I'm not worried about hurting my plant by sprinkling some on. And literally, you can sprinkle it on the top. It makes its way in, or you can add it to your mix, and not a lot. I use like a teaspoon in like a big mix. Um, so it's just a little bit of extra nutrition there. Um, the only downside I've seen is if you add too much. So mind you, if you're like talking about a little plant like that, we're talking little, not a whole teaspoon, but just a little bit. Is if you add too much to your mix, it does hold a lot of moisture. So this is also a good option if you don't want to use peat. Worm castings. You can grow your seedlings in worm castings. It's like pure, like pure compost, basically. It's pretty great. Holds a lot of moisture. It's a lot of nutrition. Um, and it's just a byproduct of what they call like vermiculture, which is growing worms, raising worms. Um, I do want to have a worm bin. I had a worm bin several years ago, but I couldn't keep up at the time, and yeah, I think I want to go back so I can just produce this on my own. Um, I do have a colony of dubia roaches, so they are technically roaches, but they don't look like typical roaches. They kind of look like giant pill bugs. And they do produce frass, which is their poop. And that can technically be collected and added to your plants as well. And people do actually add frass to their plants. Um, I haven't collected it though. I mean, I had a container that I had a little bit in to show people what it is. But I don't actively collect it. But technically, I could. Another thing that I do like to add to my soil mixes is I have this it's a slow release fertilizer, but it's a granule. You can go overboard with this, and it does have a very funky smell. So whew, it's pungent. Um, so these are little granules. Let's see here, yeah. So they're little hard granules, and I would not add more than a pinch. So this you could go overboard with. I think this is Job's organic slow release granules. Uh, Now the issues if you put too much, like other like commercial fertilizers, this does have like a lot of salts in it, and it can leach moisture away um, from from the roots, and can end up actually damaging your plant. So your the roots of your plant. So I do not go overboard in this. You could easily go overboard because you're like, oh yeah, it's gonna be slow release. But then the problem is if you go overboard, you won't know for about 2 months. So because what ends up happening is it gets activated by the water, and so it's going to take a couple waterings for it to really do its damage. And so that's the problem, is that it's slow release, so it might take like 2 or 3 months before your plant looks like it has fertilizer burn. And the poor thing is not looking well, and then you realize, oh, it's the slow release fertilizer that I went a little too hard on and did that with. Um, and then with horticultural charcoal, I did want to mention that. So that's wonderful. I personally like it. It's naturally derived. It can lessen odor. Um, it can slightly increase moisture retention, but it's not by a lot. And you can buy them. It's like charcoal. They look like these big pieces. I think I don't have any more. I swore I had another container with horticultural charcoal, but I actually think I'm out. The only horticultural charcoal, it's hard to say that really fast. The horticultural charcoal I have left is the one I have with my springtails, which I'll grab real quick. I meant to grab that. Let me just pull these guys out. Yeah, and I use just that to grow my springtails in, so there was no other substrate in here, just some water. So I always make sure there's a little bit of a water level over here. Um, this can decompose in your mix. It will break down. But the big thing is this breaks down and it helps feed your plant as well as any microorganisms that are in your plant. So just to show you what horticultural charcoal can look like. So basically these big chunks, they can be small, large. Um, Here you can see there, you can probably get the camera, can get them. So these are springtails, those little white things, they're running around right now. Here we go, maybe I can grab a bigger piece here. Here we go. There's some big ones and some little ones. They're running for their lives. So let me put them back. I have this whole container with a bunch of chunks and there's some water in here at the base. And I actually raise these. This is my colony. And I raise these on purpose. So if anyone's like, why are you raising these creatures? So this is a really great way to seed my terrariums and also any plants that I have that might, let's say, be needing a little bit extra moisture, that might start growing a little bit of fungus or be attracting fungus gnats. This is a great natural alternative. They don't bite, they don't harm humans in any way, they don't harm your plants. So they just want to eat the fungus that's in the soil. And they just eat rotting material. So any wood maybe that's breaking down in your soil, any fungus, anything like that. And yeah, they just go ahead and you can add them. Now, if your plant completely dries out, they might die along with them. So if it's usually something that's used for plants that are actively kind of moist, pretty consistently, um, like seedlings, terrariums, where it's kind of like this little ecosystem that you're building, and so they're part of what is known as the cleanup crew. So I use those. I also raise my own isopods as well. And so those are known as roly-polies or pill bugs. And I raise those as well. And then I add them to my terrariums. I also like to add the dubia roaches to my terrariums. And so they start off really small. They can get pretty large, but they do a really good job at cleaning up. So if there's any, like if I have geckos and frogs, so you know, their waste, the bugs eat it up, and the invertebrates will go to town and eat that up if there's any of the substrate that's breaking down. If a cricket that because we feed them primarily crickets, if a cricket dies, they'll clean it up, and so that's their job in the ecosystem is they're cleaners. Anything. Yeah, they will clean it up. They're the garbage disposal system. And so and they just kind of keep that in check. So they manage, to keep any fungus or anything from taking over. Um, so I love using that little cleanup crew. And so yeah, I have my springtails, and then I have my isopods, and then I have a 10-gallon tank with the dubia roaches, and they work really great also with composting. So we throw any like scraps. You can throw like, what's left of the broccoli, like the stem. You can throw things like that, like the tops of the carrots, anything that you end up not eating, you can throw in there with them, and they just destroy it. It's gone. Kind of like worms. But yeah, they're just so I like having them. I originally set them up because of our reptiles, so they like to feed on them. And then I was like, well, they're actually, I'm growing the colony, and they're doing really well. And I was like, they actually work for a bunch of different things that I can use them for. So yeah, and they're pretty cool. I don't mind. I like insects. So I don't mind having them around. Um so let me get to some questions. I don't have a worm farm. I do want one. So I do want to get one. I want to get one of those systems though, because ooh, like 10 years ago I had a worm bin. But it was just a bin. It wasn't like the full system that I see now that people are buying, where it's like separate bins, and so it's like a top bin where you put your worms and your compost. And then there's a second thing that basically captures all of the juice, kind of like they call it the compost tea that is generated, that from breaks down. So you can separate that out to use as compost. Um, and there's like a mesh also to catch any frass, so any worm castings. So there's like whole systems now. So I want to get one of those. I really would love to get one of those. Um, I love how modernized it's become. So I definitely I'd like to get that rather than what I used to have. Um, yes, and I do add horticulture, Jesus, horticultural charcoal for my plants themselves. So I do add it in there to my mixes. And so I'll add like a teaspoon or two to my mix, and it's good for the plant itself. It's going to reduce any odors. So sometimes if you're adding certain types of substrates, or if you're working with certain types of fertilizers, like the fish emulsion, that can be very, very stinky. Some people who add like actual compost to their plants as well, it might have a bit of a smell. So the horticultural charcoal is great at offsetting that. And then it does break down in your soil, so it'll give nutrition to your plants, and it'll feed the microorganisms that are in that mix. So whether you might have springtails in there that are occurring naturally, you might have nematodes in there. You might have just other isopods, other creatures, millipedes. So other things that are actively in there. It'll feed them. So it's just kind of good to kind of boost your plant's little ecosystem, because your pot is very much an ecosystem. It's like an enclosed ecosystem. um, so yes. Let me see.
Ow.
Oh, somebody unmuted themselves. Let me see here. Oh, here we go. Deanna, when watering plants, is it better to water them early in the day? And is there a better time of year to fertilize? Yes. So earlier in the day, I would recommend, if you can, water them earlier in the day. In the evenings, plants tend to respire, so they tend to release kind of excess moisture, excess water that they didn't use during the day. Um, so I would recommend watering them kind of earlier in the day when they have sunlight, because water is actively used in the photosynthesis process. So it's just better if they have that water readily available. Um, if you water later in the day, there's no sunlight, and again, the plant's trying to get rid of excess moisture in the evenings, and so it's usually not the best time to water. Also, if it tends to be like a colder evening or something like that, if you water them, the roots can potentially freeze. It depends if you have it next to the window or something like that. Um, so I would advise against it. Now, if it's an emergency, I mean, I have totally done it before a trip. And I'm like, I needed to water this whole section of plants and I didn't get to, and I have to go, but I don't want to leave without watering them. Yes, I have watered plants in the evening, but I just try to make sure that's not the habit. So the earlier, the better. And in terms of the best time of year to fertilize, it's definitely during the growing season. So you don't want to fertilize when it's like winter, or when your plant might be dormant. So it might be just kind of some plants go through not a true dormancy, but it's more of a rest period.
Mhm.
So you don't want to fertilize during that time, because
Mhm.
they're not actively using that parts of themselves, right? Like the roots aren't actively pulling up those nutrients. They're kind of in it's not like hibernation or real dormancy, but they're just not active as they were.
Mhm. How
Uh,
about when they're blooming?
yes,
Would be okay.
yes. So you could add a little bit of fertilizer while they're blooming. Just make sure that when you are fertilizing your plants, if you're using some type of like, for instance, like the worm castings, I do that all throughout the year because that's something it's going to take a while for it to break down and release. It's not something that's immediately going to feed my plant right away. So I don't purposely add it to an already potted plant in the winter. But if I'm, let's say, potting up, like I'm separating a plant and I'm giving it its own kind of new mix, might throw a little bit in there.
Mhm.
But if the plant is, yeah, if it's actively blooming, you just don't want to, like if you're going to use like a commercial fertilizer, like a powder or a liquid type of fertilizer, you want to limit it to about once a month. So usually with the growing season, so here in like the northern hemisphere, our growing season tends to be about 3 to 4 months. Um, so then you end up only fertilizing those few times. If you're using, my cats are about to start. I can hear Jules growling in the background. Hey, hey, I don't know why he's been picking fights with our cat Lexi. The last couple days. I don't know why they're doing that. Oh, he stopped. So if you hear growling, that's what's happening. They get into like these wrestling matches. Um, but yeah, so you're gonna end up fertilizing once a month. If you are using though something light and gentle, also like fish water. So we use our aquarium tank water when we do our water changes. That we do all throughout the year. So if it's gentle enough, you can use it throughout the year. But if it's like this super strength kind of fertilizer that you purchase that they're like just add water kind of situation,
Right.
they it can be kind of strong. So you want to make sure that you're limiting that. So like once a month during the growing season is like the safest option.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, Jocelyn.
You're
This is
welcome.
great. Thank you.
And let me see here. Um, is it like Osmocote? I have never used Osmocote. Osmocote. Why does that sound so familiar? Osmocote. Oh, it's a type of fertilizer. I'm just looking that up here. Osmocote, indoor plus food fertilizer. Best. Guys, what are you doing? I hear you. All right. So I've never used Osmocote, and I'll have to look more into that. It does look like it is a bunch of granules on plant food. It says it is a smart release plant food. I think it's slightly different than the one that I have. But I can try to see if I can compare them. I've never used it. I've never used Osmocote. Um, Oh, the charcoal. Would the charcoal be the same as used in the aquarium? So I think it's slightly different with the the type of charcoal that's used for the aquarium. So I'm not sure if they might be using like a different type of like process, if they might be I'm not sure if it would be safe. I've never used like aquarium charcoal the same as I've used horticultural charcoal. So I'm just not sure if it's like if it's just the same old deal. I personally don't know. I've used aquarium charcoal for our aquariums. But yeah, they usually come in I don't know. It's like a different uh I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I can find out though. If it would still be good for plants. Because it's priced differently. It looks slightly different. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's maybe just they're just processed slightly differently, but it's the same in the end kind of thing. Could be totally that. But I can find out. Alba is asking, can you add worm castings to a fruiting tree or a flowering plant? Yes, absolutely. You can totally add worm castings, and they're great. Gabby is asking, is it possible to add perlite to a potted plant, or does it have to really be mixed in for a new potting? Great question. So if possible, yes, it's great if you are creating a new mix and you add the perlite at that point. That's just the easiest option. Yes, you can add perlite to a potted plant. So let's say it's already potted. Now, what's a little difficult, right, is if the plant is, let's say, in peat, and so that's super dry, that perlite's not going to readily go in there. If your plant is wet though, and the mix is kind of nice and airy, you can kind of try to see if you can mix in a little bit of the perlite, at least the top couple inches without hitting the roots, if that's possible. You can try to do that, and then as you water, basically the perlite will kind of get displaced and move throughout the mix. It probably won't get as far down as you might want it to get though. So what I have done is, if I don't want to necessarily repot the entire plant, like it's in a great pot, it just needs a little of more perlite. I have removed the plant and kind of just remove a little bit of that peat or just that excess soil that might be in there. And then I throw in some perlite, and then I put it back, and I kind of backfill with perlite. So then it kind of settles in. Once I'm watering it, it mixes a little bit better with the soil. But then at least it's there, versus just a block of peat or something like that that could end up harming the plant in the long run. So I have done that. So I just try not to harm really the roots too much. I just kind of pick it up, remove some of that excess soil, put a little perlite in the pot, add some more perlite in there, kind of try to mix it with the soil on top, and kind of do it in a backwards way. So I have very much done that. Virginia is asking, for holiday cacti, how much orchid bark to cactus mix? Great question. So with the generic kind of cactus mixes that you might buy, I have used very much like I have used like Fox Farm. I used to grab, if I didn't have that available, I would just grab what's it called, the Miracle Grow. I've used that in the past. So just any type of succulent mix that I could get my hands on. And sometimes some stores have their own succulent mix as well. So you can sometimes find that. But I always find that there's just not enough perlite for my liking. So so if you're trying to do your own mix, if you're seeing that cactus mix doesn't have that much perlite, like it's just a couple little pieces of perlite here and there, I would add a little bit more. And in terms, I would probably do, for an orchid, sorry, for a holiday cacti, I would probably do a little less than 1/3. So it'd be kind of like cactus mix as like 1/3 Then one third would be basically comprised of like perlite, maybe a little bit of leca, kind of like just a mix. Maybe like a teaspoon of worm castings in there. Um, yeah, and then just to give it some grit and a little bit of nutrition, so that kind of becomes like one little piece. And then yeah, and then add in the orchid bark and mix that up. So yeah, I wouldn't add anything like sphagnum moss to the mix though, because that's going to hold a lot of moisture, and your the cactus isn't going to appreciate that. So definitely don't. Um, Oh, A. Aguilar is asking, there are a lot of trucks of trees that had fallen due to a windstorm and rainstorm. Can I use the the trunks, um, when they break down as substrate? So there are a couple issues there. So one, depending on the type of tree, they might have relationships with certain types of fungi, and that you can end up introducing that to your plant, and it might not be compatible with your plant. Also, a big issue with using found wood is pests. So there might be like beetles or types of like grubs, larvae, things that are in that trunk that can be an issue. So sometimes when people do want to use kind of found wood, they might bake it in the oven for a little while so that it kills anything that might be in there. Um, so that could be an option. Um, Also, unfortunately, there's pathogens. There's viral pathogens and bacterial pathogens. So that's how a lot of um, issues end up happening with kind of spreading around pests or pathogens. And it's sometimes when people buy firewood, for instance, and you buy firewood that's not from wood from your land, if you pick it up somewhere else, and then you bring it and you introduce it kind of to your land, that can end up actually introducing a pest to your garden. Um, so I don't recommend very unless you're going to take certain precautions like baking the wood. Um, it can be difficult, and then some trees like with the orchid bark, for instance, it usually comes from coniferous trees, and they can make your soil slightly acidic. So depending on the tree, this can have an opposite effect. It can make your soil a little bit more alkaline. Um, so you would have to know exactly what type of tree it is and see if it's a good option. So some trees also break down. Their wood will break down a lot slower than other species. Um, so there's a lot of considerations there. But if you're able to kind of get that information, like what kind of tree is it? Um, it's hard to know whether or not it has some type of pathogen, unfortunately. Um, but if you're willing to kind of bake it at least to kill anything that might be living on there, that might be helpful. Yeah. And yes, Virginia, please explain about using leca with orchids. Is it just used alone or with bark or sphagnum? No, so if you're going to use it with your orchids, you probably just want to use just the leca. I mean, I have seen folks use the leca in combination with sphagnum on top, but I just don't recommend too much of the sphagnum with the orchids if it's being like moistened, because then that does lock in a lot of moisture at the base of your orchid leaves, and that can cause them to start to rot. So I wouldn't recommend that. With the leca, so you put your orchid, like let's say like a Phalaenopsis orchid, you would use it, so that's the moth orchid. You would use a netted pot. So this is a pot that has kind of slits, and you would put your orchid, you would mix in the leca in there. Sometimes they're netted pots too. So then you have like that mix. And then when you're ready to water the plant, you basically can kind of bottom water it. Some people will use if they have like their faucet with a filter or things like that already on it. You can either do kind of just put it under the faucet for a few minutes. I like to just bottom water everything. So I'll put, if I have like a plant that's in leca, I kind of let it sit like that. If it's in a netted pot, it soaks up water, so let it sit for a few minutes, gets completely saturated, and then I put it back into its pot. So then that slowly dries, the plant uses up that water. And so you can do that with orchids. And so therefore they're not in water all the time. And as soon as you see that the leca is dry, because it changes colors. So when it's wet, it's like this dark red brown kind of color. And then when it dries, it's much lighter. And so you can kind of, it's kind of a good visual cue. Now there are species though, like our anthuriums. We have a philodendron ring of fire. Is it? I think it's a ring of fire. I think it's a ring of fire. Um, and also in leca, but they're in a big glass jar, and that's how we got them. So um, that's how they were raised, and we don't want to move them because they're happy and beautiful. So we have one anthurium and one philodendron um, ring of fire that are completely submerged in leca and in a glass container with no drainage holes, and we just top them off, and that's all we do. So they're happy and staying happy, so we leave them like that. But yes, I wouldn't combine it with bark, though. I wouldn't mix the sphagnum moss with the leca, because you don't want anything kind of in there that's going to rot, right? You just, the leca by itself is the best option if you're doing like a water kind of propagation, or if you're using like the orchids and kind of letting them suck up the water, and then that's it. So don't want to use that. Brenda's asking, I received pepper plants basically grown in water with a little soil in a pod. The roots look so fragile. I put the pod first in a jar with small leca balls and water. I'm afraid to move them directly into the dirt and have it live. Will the leca help the roots to get stronger? Yeah, I have found that the leca does indeed give the roots surface area to cling to. So I like using it when I'm doing my water propagations because it gives my roots something to grab onto, and I do see that it kind of helps promote the growth of the bigger roots with the root hairs, and those are the ones that you want in your soil. So it's much different than those fragile water roots that you might be seeing. They're very thin, very tender, and they get very easily dehydrated. So I would wait until they're a little bit stronger. You see like a lot more roots that have like root hairs. I mean, peppers, different types of like veggies, they can be grown solely hydroponically, so in water without the need of moving them into soil. So there's like things like arrow gardens and things like that. You can grow tomatoes that way. So you can grow like several like lettuces, basil, so like a lot of mint plants and things. You can grow them exclusively in water. So you don't necessarily have to move them into soil, especially if they were grown in water from the beginning, kind of like raised that way. So yeah. Yeah, Synth is asking, where do I order the leca online and how do I spell it? Yes, so leca, Leca, leca. And I order, oh gosh, if I sometimes I can get it at Home Depot. I've bought it from, well, I bought it from pet shops, so like Petco. I've ordered it from Amazon. Um, Lowe's. I believe I've bought some from Lowe's. And then just local garden centers tend to carry it now into. So I think I froze. Hold on. My image froze and I just thought that was really funny. I panicked. I was like, "Oh no, I froze." And then my face stuck in that position. Synth was asking how long to keep in the oven. So I think you bake it for like 180 for at least like an hour or so at the very least. But yeah. And Adeline asked how and the type of plants would you use coco coir if you can't find another option? how and type of plants would you use coco coir? Oh, and if you can't find, what are the option? Yeah, so coco coir is great for um, well, like a phalaenopsis, it would probably be a little bit too much, hold a little bit too much moisture for their liking. But yeah, you can use it, coco coir, for a lot of like young plants. So starting off plants, starting off propagations, it's good. Um, and I like to use coco coir. I mix it in with my aeroids. So like my philodendrons, my monstera, my epiprenums, scindapsus. Use them even a little bit. I put a little bit with my ZZ plants, my snake plants. Um, yeah, so I kind of use it pretty readily for a lot of my tropical like foliage plants. I mix it in with the other aggregates that I use. Another option, um, if you didn't have access to coco coir, I mean, if there's any other cocoa products, so like cocoa husk, um, probably use like an orchid bark as another option. If you're trying to use like kind of like that kind of chunky kind of feel to it. Because yeah, you're not going to really get that from sphagnum or anything. Um, yeah, maybe just using like an alternative would be using like orchid bark or some type of bark blend mix that you're able to get. And I usually use it, yeah, with mostly like my aeroids and just different species, like even alocasias, what else? Anthuriums. Um, yeah. Mostly my foliage, like tropical foliage plants. But yeah. All right, I think I got to all the questions. I hope I did. Yeah, and uh so I hope that was helpful. I hope that was informative. It's always fun to pull these things out and yeah, and show you folks. I want to do I might do a class on how I created my rolling carts. So I might do that, but I think I'll kind of have to do like a step-by-step tutorial and then film that, um, and then kind of show that and then explain it a little bit more. So that might be a little bit extra uh, time involved in that one. But I do want to show you how I set that up because I have rolling carts where well, I have supplies on, and then I have some rolling carts that I added grow lights to. And so, yeah. So yeah, and yeah, that is great. Gabby's talking about real potting demo. Yes, yes. I'm doing that. Absolutely. Oh, Synth took notes like mad. Oh, you're very, very welcome. And yeah, I hope that was helpful. The replay will be available. I'll post it up in the group on Facebook. If for any reason you're not on Facebook, feel free to let me know. I'm happy to send you the link so that you can get into the folder with all the previous replays. Yeah, and yeah, just let me know if you have any questions, and you can send them my way. This week we had family here, so but now it looks like it's calmed down. So so I'll be checking. Yeah, I have like a backlog of emails. My inbox is screaming at me at this point, so I will get back to everyone. Oh, thank you. Yeah, these are new. They're actually it's hard to see. They're flowers and leaves, but they're all like rainbows. And they all go around. I saw them and I was like, I need to have these. So I just got these. Um, yeah, and so they're awesome. Um, yeah, and so these are UV, so these are like computer glasses. And so the reason I wear glasses is on this eye, I have a slight astigmatism, so I'm sensitive And so like this eye on my prescription glasses is the only one that has a little bit of a prescription. The other one is fine. so my glasses is like only one has a prescription, the other one's just glass basically, because this eye is fine. It's this eye that's really sensitive to light and stuff. And so I have to use computer glasses too. And so this is a UV like blue screen protector because my eyes get really, really tired. I'm on the computer like sometimes 12 to 16 hours a day. And so my eyes they just die. So I need to get the UV protector glasses. So and I sometimes forget to put them on. And then I suffer migraines as a result. So these I got on Amazon. And I fell in love with them. So if you're on computers for long periods of time, even if you don't wear prescription glasses, these are really, really helpful. It just really kind of gives your eyes a rest, a little protective barrier from the blue light. And then it helps to, especially if you have issues, kind of if you're working into the night with, and the blue light can affect your sleeping, kind of screws up with your circadian rhythm. So yeah. So look into that. Look into computer glasses because it's very, very helpful. But all right, thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday. Happy April! I can't believe we're in April already. And yeah, just be safe, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Jocelyn. Happy Easter to
Oh, happy
everybody.
Easter!
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for tuning in and please stay safe. Have a great week. And yeah, see you next week. Have a great one. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.